We've talked about the good. We've talked about the bad. Now we've got to talk about the ugly. Let's discuss the top 3 knives I regret purchasing. Let's get to it, guys. Alright guys, as I said, in this video we are going to discuss 3 knives that I regret purchasing. When I purchased these knives, I did so first of all with my own money, but I bought these knives because I thought that they would fill a specific need that I was looking for. And with these 3 knives, I was sorely disappointed, and if I can save someone the hassle and the headache of in the future having a drawer full of knives that are just complete crap, then by all means I want to help do so. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The number 1 knife that I purchased that I totally regret making the purchase is the Ontario Rat Model 1. The Ontario Rat Model 1. A couple years ago, this knife was actually on my list of my top regrets as far as things I purchased. I think that was back in 2022, I believe, of the purchases I made in 2022. And I'll admit, for some people, this may not be a bad knife. This isn't number 1 on the list because it's the worst, not even close, but it is the first one that I want to mention in this list. Just some stats. I'm going to look down here at my notes. I'll throw these up on the screen. As far as some specs on this knife, the overall length is 7.625 inches. The blade length itself is 3.625 inches. The blade material is 1095 Crovan, so no big surprise there. That's used in a lot of these fixed blade knives. The blade style is a drop point. The grind is flat on it. The handle length is 4 inches, so you are going to get a lot of very good grip, very good purchase on this knife, unless you just have enormous hands, I guess. It weighs in at 4.8 ounces, which is a very good weight, and the nylon sheath, I'll have to tell you, the nylon sheath that comes with it is garbage. What I ended up getting with it, and I'll throw a link to this in the description, this is actually a Kydex sheath, and it attaches with the clip here. There's another attachment with this, but we don't have time to go into all that. But this clip is actually for an SE3. And I bought this because I eventually want to buy an SE3, but this sheath actually works very, very well for this particular knife. So yeah, if you do buy this knife, I'm not saying this is horrible for everyone, so if you do buy this knife, just understand that you got to get rid of the nylon sheath. Order the Kydex sheath from, I don't remember the manufacturer off the top of my head, but it's made for an SE3. Yeah, it's worth it getting the Kydex sheath. So anyway, back to the knife itself. The biggest issue that I had with this knife is blade retention. I bought this knife to work outdoors. Yes, I do like things like my K-Bar USMC. I really like my K-Bar Becker 2. That's probably my favorite outdoor or camp knife. And you can't exclude Mora Kniv from those discussions either. But I wanted something small that I could use outdoors, also carry every day if I wanted to. That wasn't going to look like I was going to be fighting King Kong, which, don't get me started on that. I'll leave that alone. But basically, my biggest issue with this knife is edge retention. You can sharpen this knife until you are blue in the face, But the bottom line and the biggest issue is it's not going to hold an edge. It's just not. And that's problematic because when I go out on a week-long hiking or camping trip, I need a knife that's going to retain its edge. If I go out for a couple days, I don't want to have to worry, is the edge going to crap the bed? So that's always a concern. Another minor concern, this is definitely minor because you can work on this and change it, but the spine of the knife here is, how can I put this? It's very dull. It's not rigid at all. So if you think you're going to strike a ferro rod on this edge and you're going to be able to start a fire, yeah, that's what we call a pipe dream. It's not going to happen unless you alter the spine of the knife. So number one, straight off the top of the list, the Rat Model 3 is a knife that I greatly regret purchasing. Save your money, save your time, buy an SE3, bite the bullet. Yeah, it's more expensive, but guess what? You'll be thankful in the end. So yeah, Rat Model 3 is number one. Number two on this list is a knife that I purchased that really surprised me because I expected this to be good because I'd never had a bad product from them. But this is the K-Bar Koipu. The K-Bar Koipu. And I'll explain why I purchased this. At the time, I was driving full-time for a public transit company, and I wanted a knife that had a glass break as well as a seatbelt cutter. And it was important to me to have those because I was on the road constantly, and so I wanted to have something in case of an emergency. And so I bought this knife, tried it out. I didn't really use it that much, and then I took a camping trip with my family. And on that camping trip, I realized the limitations of this knife, and I think you'll see it right off the bat as we look at the specs, because this tells you all you need to know. The overall length of this knife is 9 inches. The blade length is 3.75 inches. And here's the kicker. What blade material did they use? 5CR15. 5CR15. That is not going to be a blade that is going to have edge, a very good edge retention at all. The handle length is 5 inches and the handle material is G10. So I will admit, this is a knife that is going to be very beefy in the hand. It looks very beefy anyway, and if I'm looking for a beefy knife like this would fit that bill. But the problem you run into with this knife, even though it has aspects that I like, such as it does have the seatbelt cutter back here, it does have the glass break here, and it does have the seatbelt cutter here. Even though it has those features, I'm sorry, but if it doesn't have good blade retention, what's the purpose? A knife is meant for cutting. Hang on, coffee break. Black Rifle coffee, good stuff. But yeah, if the blade doesn't have retention, what is the point? Yeah, it's got a glass breaker on it. Cool. It's got a seatbelt cutter. Awesome. But primarily speaking, what I'm going to use it for day in and day out is something to cut different materials. And as I mentioned, when my family went on a vacation in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, we went camping. And I remember setting up some paracord to hold up some structures, just give a little bit more stability to the structure because we were going to have some high winds later on in the week. And I literally had to stop while cutting paracord. Paracord, we're not talking, whittling. We're not talking bushcrafting. We're not talking about anything like that. We are talking about paracord, 550 paracord. And what did I have to do? I had to stop everything that I was doing and sharpen it multiple times. That's why I knew this was garbage. Build quality is good, but as far as the blade itself, garbage. Absolute trash. I actually ended up putting this one back in my backpack and using a backup knife that I had brought with me instead. So really no love lost between me and the K-Bar Koipu, and I'll admit this is highly unfortunate because I love K-Bar. I love their products. I have a K-Bar Dozier that I absolutely love. It's in AUS 8. I don't care. It does a great job. You know, I love the K-Bar USMC. I absolutely love the K-Bar Becker too. So, or was it just the Becker? Anyway, BK2 is how people abbreviate it. But I mean, I love these knives. It's great. And so when I got one that was, well, frankly, a dud, I was sorely disappointed. But yeah, number 2 on this list would be the K-Bar Koipu. Just avoid the hassle. Totally worth it. And then number 3 on this list. Number 3 knife on this list is the Smith & Wesson SW609. The Smith & Wesson SW609. This knife and I have I guess what you could call a love-hate relationship. So, as I mentioned in the YouTube short, I actually bought this knife as a replacement knife for my Spyderco Paramilitary 2. And I lost it in the snow. I went to go replace it with another, or sorry, not Paramilitary 2. That's a good one. No, I used it to replace my Spyderco Tenacious. My bad on that. The Spyderco Tenacious. And I wanted to go buy another Tenacious because I was really pleased with it. It was the first Spyderco I'd ever purchased. I was just then getting into knives. And so basically I wanted to replace it when I lost it in the snow. They didn't have one, but they had this SW609. And I thought, okay, well, it's got at least a blade profile, and the ergos of the handle feel pretty good, so I'll go with that. And here in another week or two, I'll just get another one, get another Spyderco Tenacious. And I bought this knife, and it just really didn't fit the need. It just simply didn't fit the need. When we look at the stats on the knife, the blade length is 3.6 inches. The handle material, or sorry, blade material correction, is 8CR13 MOV, so Chinese steel. This really didn't fit the bill. The blade retention wasn't there. It just didn't do anything I needed it to do. The biggest issue that I had, though, is it's a flipper, and it doesn't flip. There is no detent. I'm flipping. Let's see if I can get it. Nope, still won't do it. I'm going to flick the wrist this time. So if you flick your wrist, it'll do that. But then, like, the biggest problem you're going to run into is if you let go of it, your knife's going to go flying off somewhere. So probably not a good idea to do that. But I like flippers, but there's no detent inside of this one. And so basically, if you have the pivot screw tightened to the point that it should be, it's just not going to work very well at all. The flipper is not going to work. Yeah, so like I said, there's poor steel that's used. After I got to using this more, I really did not like the ergonomics. I like a knife that has some contouring. I mean, yeah, they do have the thumb troil here, and they have this here so you can't, supposedly can't slip your finger over the top. And those are 2 pluses, but I don't know, the handle just really isn't ergonomic at all. No grooves for your fingers. I feel like this doesn't fit very well in my hand. I don't know, ergos just don't work for me. They may work for you. They definitely don't for me. Yeah, like I said, no detent. I mean, I could go on and on about this knife. The bottom line is The blade retention is garbage. The ergos are horrible. And the fact that the pivot screw has no detent pin. I mean, I love flippers. I mean, for example, hang on, I'll grab this one. So I love flippers a lot. This is the Civivi Naha. It's been on the channel several times. This is one of my favorite cheaper knives. But I mean, like, you look at this. Every single time, flip. Every single time, flip. Flip. I mean, and this is a sub $50 knife. But with this, nope. Nope. And so as much as I love flippers, this one, it just doesn't take the cake. So I don't really like it. Just doesn't fit the need. Maybe it works for someone else who's looking for a cheap flipper, but I personally just don't care for the knife at all. And with all three of these knives, I think I learned a very valuable lesson, and that is, don't spend your money on cheap crap. Don't spend your money on crap. And yes, I know that, you know, like for example, with the Ontario Rat Model 3, this is not a crap knife. It just doesn't fit what I need. So I'm not saying like every single knife that doesn't fit my need is garbage. No. What I'm saying is save your money. If you would rather have, let's say, a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 instead of a Spyderco Tenacious, well, okay, save your money. Save your money and buy what you want. Because ultimately, you don't have to buy things you regret. We all have a drawer of knives that don't get used because we all made the same mistakes when we first started out. But hopefully this has been informative, and hopefully this can help you if you're watching this and you're new to knives. Check out a few other videos on the channel. Hope it helps you out. But ultimately, every one of us are going to make purchases that we regret. All of us are going to be mixing, matching, trying different things, and there's going to be a few swings and misses, and that's okay. But the main thing is, when we make a mistake, such as one of these three knives that I have included in this video, we need to learn from it, learn to save our money, and spend it on things that we actually want, instead of the cheap crap that's going to end up in a drawer and never used. So that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you've liked it, and hope it's been informative. If you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel. You guys know the usual stuff. And as always, come and join the adventure, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.